See, we had 85 chairs. We had 110 people register, and only room for like 80, so that was perfect. I said, because you know the theory is that sorry, we're recording this. We're learning. I'm too close. Too much of me is a bad thing.
That line. You gotta stay behind.
Oh, stop the line? I said, I'm glad I'm not talking then today. I'd be all over you. You'd be trying to find me. You couldn't find me if you had to. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Pretty warmed up?
Yeah.
Chris, get enough people in here. We'll start to warm it up. Coffee and water in the back. Feel free to make yourselves at home. Bagels, bananas, oranges, or tangerines or something citrusy. All right, bananas, apples. We're good to go there. So make yourself at home. Come and go as you need. All right, as you get going. A couple things. First of all, I'm going to take a quick advantage because not everybody here, but a lot of future home agents are here. Future home agents, if you have not registered for our Christmas party, make sure you do so. All right, make sure you get in there and register Jim. That email's out, right? Okay, so make sure you do that. We'd love to see you there. Some of you that haven't been to any of our Christmas parties in the past because you feel like you don't know anybody, now you know everybody. Look around, you know people. So now come. We'd love to have you. So let's do that. Tanya, you ready?
Sure.
First of all, okay, so here's the impetus of this. Cindy Hayden came to me probably a couple months ago, right? And said, hey, look, you know what? Cindy sells a lot of properties. He does a lot of business and a lot of stuff. Very knowledgeable agent, been doing it a long time. She says, you know, I'm a little tentative sometimes when I'm representing buyers in these bank-owned properties because I know the FAR bar, all right? And I feel real comfortable in explaining that to my clients, but I get real iffy when I start talking to them, you know, and we're looking at this contract that basically says, hey, look, take that whole FAR bar contract and throw it out the window because this addendum replaces the old contract. And so I thought, well, you know what, because it'd be good if you brought in an attorney that could help explain some of the common clauses that are in there that are, you know, a little more frequently in a lot of bank-owned stuff. So I said, okay, great, that's a great idea, let's do that. We had just entered a relationship with David Rankin and Tanya. Tanya's the marketing person for American Patriot Title, and David is the owner of American Patriot, but also an attorney. Happens to be the, what do you call yourself, the head counsel at GTAR?
The attorney for the Greater Tampa Association of Realtors.
Okay, there you go. All right, that's what he is there. And so, very knowledgeable in real estate law, obviously, and having owned a title company and this. So he's a great guy, willing to do it, and he doesn't charge you by the hour to come here. Can you believe that? An attorney? You know, he didn't start the clock when he walked in and said, "Okay, we're billing hours."
It was,
right.
Bob, it was a weak moment.
Okay. You are not offered. That was a friends and family discount. You guys don't get that, all right? But for full disclosure, and then Don Davis. Don is an agent with Future Home, but lists a ton of properties, right? What's most of your business, Don? I mean,
right now it's Freddie Mac.
Okay.
Nation Star, Freddie Mac, and Bank of America are the biggest clients right now.
Okay, ton of stuff. We did get your email responses of the questions you want answered. All right, so we will go through those as well. Make sure that we cover as much of that as possible, and leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A at the end as well. All right, so you have a lot of information. That being said, I want to introduce Tanya. Tanya, come on up. Tanya in Morningstar is the marketing director for American Patriot Title. Great title company. One of our agents just recently had a deal and just raved about them. Cool thing about them is that they are attorney owned, so it's kind of helpful sometimes when you get into some sticky situations that you got a title company that's there. So tell us about American Patriot.
Thank you, Bob and Jim, and all of you for having us. As he mentioned, I'm with American Patriot Title, as you all saw the little brochures on your chairs. We know you're bombarded with vendors. We know definitely you're bombarded with title companies. They make my life crazy. There's one on every corner. What I can first say is I know that most of you are probably already established with a title company. And if you are, hopefully it's an attorney-based title company. And you'll learn more about that today and why that's so important. If you are already established with a title company, we'd love to be your second choice. Or if you're not, come give us a try. As Bob mentioned, we have several realtors with Future Home Realty that have used American Patriot Title and that can vouch for us. If you'd like their name and number, they're willing to talk to you outside of here or here. A few of them are here as well. And as he mentioned, David Rankin is the attorney for GTAR. He has been since 2002, and American Patriot Title has been in business for over 11 years. The big thing with using American Patriot Title is that not only are you going to get efficient service, you're going to get very ethical service. I've heard it from several of you today, and I hear it all the time, that you are put in a position to possibly practice law. And most of you or probably all of you are not attorneys. It's a very fine line day in and day out dealing with your buyers and your sellers. So when you work with a title company that is attorney-based, such as David Rankin and American Patriot Title, we've got your back. We're going to make sure that you don't get yourself in trouble. We're going to have the best interests of your clients, and we're going to be with you along the way. Somebody had mentioned something earlier that a title company had not caught something, and now their buyer is dealing with it in fees that were not caught. We catch things all the time. I know some realtors don't want to work with an attorney-based title company because they don't want to deal with doing things sometimes the right way. But we will catch everything, and we will make sure that your deals go through and that they're ethical. So we'd love for you to give us a call, check us out. And this is David Rankin, GTAR attorney. And
Extraordinaire.
Attorney for the greater Tampa.
That's
I'll
right.
let him tell you a little bit more about
He
himself.
likes to talk about himself anyway.
Yeah.
He's the best self-introducer I've ever met in my life. So he's good. So come on up, David. You know what? And we're doing this. And get this. Not only is he not billing me by the hour. All right. He did say I didn't let Tommy come up and talk to you a little bit. All right. I'm just kidding. I offered that. He's allowing us to record this. Right? You didn't show me an attorney who's allowed me to put stuff on record, all right? Okay, this is undeniable, irrefutable, you know what I mean? Don't come back and say you never met the architect of Obamacare because you are in the White House. All right, you know, okay.
It was a series of weak moments.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
All right, so it is being recorded, and by the way, if you want a copy of anything that we're going to show here, Don, are you okay if I put out the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I always offer my PowerPoints, but I'm offering yours as well. You can email us, and we'll get you that, and all sorts of information. We'll talk about that at the end if you want some of this stuff. And then if you want a copy of this or want to review this later, I'll give you some places you can go check this out once we have it uploaded. Cool? Awesome. All right, so you want to start with this? You want to talk first, or you want to start with that video?
So I have a little bit of
You go.
an introduction.
Yeah, I'll get
All
the
right.
video ready.
I want to make sure anybody who has any trouble hearing me in the back, what I want you to do, you're all about napkins. All right, crunch the napkins up and start throwing them. All right, that'll be the signal that I can't hear you, David. All right. So it's a frightening prospect for Tanya. A lot of times when I start with these seminars, what I like to do is make odd historical references or pop stories about pop culture or whatever, just to try to tie in your brain to what it is that we're doing. All right, so the story for the day is ancient history. Back many thousands of years ago, the Trojans, who is now today's Turkey, were having it out with the Greeks. All right, and we've all heard the story of the Trojan horse, but we're going to have a video that's going to explain it and sort of relate to what we're doing here today. But just so everybody's got the full story, and Bob shared with me that his 11-year-old son knew this story, so this is. Anyway, so what was happening was the Trojans were in their fortressed city. The Greeks were hammered against the walls for many, many months, couldn't break the siege. So somebody, smart Greek, said, okay, I've got an idea. What we're going to do is we're going to build a Trojan horse. We're going to put the Trojan horse at the gates, and we're going to have a small battalion of men in this Trojan horse. The Trojans are going to see this horse, think it's a gift from the gods. We the Greeks have left. They'll bring the horse into the fortress. Night will come, we'll pop out, open the gates, everybody comes back, we win the war, all right? Who would have thought that would have happened? Anyway, it did happen, all right? So now we've got a couple of bright Australians, just to come back to today's world. We have a couple of Australians who are going to give us a little bit of their own spin on this. And what I want you to understand is that we have a Trojan horse among us that we'll be discussing today. The Trojan horse is the FAR contract, all right? You are completely comfortable with, Don, I've read that thing, I know it, it looks good, it's a contract, I feel good with it. With an REO, there's an addendum, all right? So when you combine the contract with the REO addendum, you get Trojan horse.
All right.
Love that.
And it is a Trojan.
So what have we learnt from history? Because Craig, the PM, spoke at a summit yesterday about the importance of history, and we agree with him. Often it pays to cast your mind back to see what impact history has had on our society.
Yeah, that's right, and find out if we've learnt the lessons from the past. For instance, I always loved the story of the Trojan horse, you know, where the Greeks won the war against Troy.
Yeah, Troy in Turkey.
Yeah, in Turkey, exactly. The Greeks smuggled soldiers through the city gates inside a giant wooden horse. They came out and won the war.
A defining moment in warfare history.
Exactly, but would anyone be so stupid as to fall for it again? Would anybody let a Trojan horse through their gates today?
Wait, can we take the Trojan horse in? Can we just leave it here overnight and pick up tomorrow morning again, are you? Yeah, pick up tomorrow morning. Right, left hand side, the next one.
G'day, mate.
Alright, so which one this is coming in?
Where's the history department? Quadrangle? Yeah. Thanks, mate. Yeah.
Just got these from the Greeks, the gift. Can we leave it here for the night? Ask the Consul General. We just want to leave it here for the night. Hello? No, we can't leave this here.
We just got this Trojan horse.
Can we leave it here for the night? Inside. What do you mean? I'm sure there's no one inside. Why would there be anyone inside? Can we just leave it here at the barracks for the night? I had no idea he was in there. Excuse me?
He rolls right into the next one.
Wait. You wait in traffic
Okay, so not watching
at
this.
the supermarket.
Alright. Alright, David, you're back up and you want, we want this, right?
That'll be good.
Good, perfect.
So, Trojan horse contract. Everybody get the analogy here? And I just want you to understand, every now and then when people speak Australian, when they say the word oi, it's spelled O-I. I didn't know that until I saw that transcription there. What do we hear about today? What do we want to accomplish? We've got Bob over here, the nervous broker. He's got all these folks running around town, and they're signing up people, and we're doing REO contracts, and man, this is great. And it's going to be wonderful. We're going to have happy customers. We're going to have people who buy REO properties. We're going to flip them. They're going to make money, and we're all going to make money. We're all going to be happy. And Bob's over there, what little gray hair he has, and what things he worries about. This is probably the number one, or right up there, the top things that he worries about. So what we're going to try to do is make an impression. All right? We're going to make an impression. We're not going to answer every question that you could possibly ask. We're going to answer as many as we can. But the impression that we want to make is that this is not simple. This is not easy. And when somebody hands you an addendum, sends back an addendum, just imagine this. In law school, there was this concept. It was called that the exception ate the rule. All right? Just imagine that whatever you've got in writing in your FAR contract, or whatever contract that you're comfortable with, that is a horse, that is comfortable with, the Trojan horse cometh. All right? Whenever you submit a FAR contract or whatever contract, you're going to get an addendum, because we're changing all the rules. All right? We are changing the rules. So we want to make an impression. We also want to make sure that we keep you out of trouble, not only out of the courts and out of trouble with the REO companies, but also with your clients. If you're representing someone and you introduce them to this REO process, without telling them what's coming. In other words, hey, I know it looks like a horse, but there are people inside of there. They're coming out during the night, and they're going to rock our world. They're going to change everything, all right? You have to have that conversation with your client, because if you don't have an informed conversation with a client, once again, you can't practice law, but you've got to prepare them for the wild ride, all right? Because this whole REO process can and oftentimes is a wild ride. Now, with the FAR bar contract, even then, a little bit of a wild ride, but you're used to that. You've been in that car, you've driven that car, you know, okay, the brakes don't work quite as well, if it rains, that kind of thing. With the FAR bar contract, you're kind of used to all that. Hey, you know, don't even break a sweat. I fill in those blanks, I feel great, you know, whew, and what am I going to do for the rest of the day? With the addendum from an REO company, you have something, in the immortal words of Monty Python, and now for something completely different, all right? So, one thing that you're aware of, that you're always at risk of, there's always this deposit, all right? Your buyer, they hand over a deposit. That oftentimes is their life savings, and if it isn't their life savings, they act like it is, all right? If you screw up and you lose their deposit, you are subject to, whether it's suit or a real estate FREC complaint, and I've represented over 300 people in front of the Florida Real Estate Commission. I know it's no fun driving over there. It's no fun having to explain yourself. I've done it many, many times on behalf of clients. It's a tough ride. You don't want to go there, all right? So what you want to do is make your client aware. Okay, there's the initial excitement, REO, maybe a great deal. Maybe there's a lot of happiness down the road with this property. But there are hurdles to jump. There are issues to address. There are rainy days that may come. There are dark days that may come. But you don't want these to be surprises. The last thing that any buyer wants is a surprise, all right? You have to show them that you are a real estate stud. I've done this before. Let me explain. This is what could happen. I'm not saying it will. And you're thinking, well, gosh, if I explain all this stuff, they won't go down this road. Well, you have to make a business decision. Do you want to go down the road with, pardon my French, but a virgin who has no idea what happens, and the first awkward thing that happens, they freak? Or you talk to that person and say, hey, we're going down this road. Could be rain, could be a bit of an earthquake, but we can anticipate these things, and I know what we're doing. I know what we're doing. So when something like this happens, it's not a shot. So you have to, first and foremost, you have to prepare your client, not just for your client's sake, but for your sake. Because as many times as I've talked to people who filed complaints against my clients, whenever I talk to somebody who did have the opportunity to file a complaint and didn't, the number one reason that they say they didn't file a complaint is I liked the person. I liked the person. They communicated with me. They warned me about certain things, something, would have missed, but I didn't file a complaint because I liked that person. And you're going to be liked if you let people know what's coming, all right, or what could come. So, REO contract, you let them know, give the benefit of your experience, and what we're talking about here today could be a wild ride. Now, let's establish a little bit of a foundation. It would help if I moved out of the way here. All right. Thank you. Alfred Hitchcock, I am not. All right, let's see. Make sure we've got, 43, okay. What's that? I got it. Gotta go down a little bit. All right. Paragraph 43 of your hymnal. We have effect. And remember the phrase, the exception that ate the rule. Thank you. I can stand here and I can read every bit of it, but if you're in the back, unless it's at the top, you don't have a chance. Thank you. So this real estate addendum amends, all right, well, yeah, that's okay, that's not too bad, and supplements the contract. And there's in the event that, here we go, in the event, remember the exception eating the rule? Here it is. In the event there is any conflict between this addendum and the contract, or escrow instructions, or notice, and it must have been written by an attorney because it just goes on and on. All right, made a part of this agreement. The terms of the addendum, the terms of the addendum take precedence and shall prevail. That's lawyer talk for the exception just ate the rule. All right, forget whatever was said in the farmer contract about certain issues. It's gone. Might as well not even exist. It is gone. All right. So are we good there? We understand that when you sign the REO contract, what you're agreeing is that any conflict between this REO contract and your far bar, the warm fuzzy horse that you're familiar with, the warm fuzzy part is gone. This addendum will prevail. Any questions? No, I guess that was pretty clear. All right. Now, another provision that you should be used to by now that is in the far bar contract, but I just want to remind you that whenever you are dealing with an agent, a seller's agent, you cannot believe anything that is said. All right? And I'm not casting aspersions at anyone. Could be the nicest person, could be the most well-intentioned individual, but basically what it says is this is the entire agreement. If it's not in writing, specifically said, then it's not a part of our agreement. It is gone forever. Adios. That is not a part of our agreement. So any representation, and we'll find one later on, that you have a conversation and you think, well, every house has got ingress and egress. Where's the driveway? How do you get, or water and sewer? We just sort of assume these things. I mean, people were living there, but there's actually an REO contract that says, hey, doesn't matter what the seller's agent has said, doesn't matter what's on our website, doesn't matter what's in the MLS. If we don't have ingress and egress, if we don't have water and sewer, whatever representations were made about that, forget about it. Those are void. Those are null and void. All right? So just mental note. If it's not within the four corners of the contract, and of course now it's got some mental gymnastics to do because you've got the far bar contract and you're used to that, warm and fuzzy and all those, but then now we've got an addendum, and the addendum just ate the rule. All right? So any provision, and of course some of these addenda not only ate the rule, but they're bigger than the rule. They're 35, 45, 50 pages long. And you're responsible for making sure that your buyer, when they sign, that electric moment, when there's a certain level of comfort, can have that buyer sign the contract. What you need to be saying to yourself for the hours before that is, holy, I've got to make, because when that person signs that contract, I need to make sure it's my responsibility. And once again, I cannot practice law because I'm only a real estate agent. It's my responsibility that they understand each and every paragraph in that contract. And anything less than that wild ride, instead of being kind of fun and exciting for everybody and we can handle this, the buyer sitting there saying, I didn't know about this. I wasn't anticipating this. I'm extremely disappointed because every other time that I bought a house, it's been easy. I haven't broken a sweat. There's been no bad news. It's all been easy. It's all been good. It's all been smooth. No, not a problem. So any time that they get disappointed, any time something out of the ordinary happens, they're looking at you. Why is this happening? So going back to the initial part of the talk, let's make sure that it's not disappointment in you. it's disappointment in the REO company, or it could well be that, well, now they warned us about this, and we talked about this. So, hey, let's just get this thing moving along, and we're going to give you the information that you need to make a decision, and you make an educated decision. And if you want to pull the ripcord on this, fine. If you want to move forward, fine. But you're going to make an educated decision. It's all about being calm. It's all about being informative. It's all about being a realtor, doing a good job as a realtor. All right. Now, boy, if they thought that was fun. All right. Now, this, provided this by my good friend Don, thank you. And this just, a lot of times people say, that attorney sure does make up a lot of stuff, Didn't make this one up. This is black and white, up at the top. See, home steps. All right. See the word up the top? Addendum. Every time you see the word addendum, the exception eats the rule, all right? And they just couldn't wait to get this out, okay? Didn't want to put it in the back paragraph right here. In the event, right here. In the event any provision of this addendum conflicts in whole or in part with the terms of your warm and fuzzy FAR contract, forget about it. The provisions of this addendum shall control. Now, one of the most pregnant provisions as far as when you're in law school. Law school exams are maybe 2, 3, 4 questions, and it's a factual scenario, and the law school professors try to jam as many legal issues as possible. And what we refer to that as just being pregnant with issues, just amazing number of issues. Well, what you've got in front of you, this could be a law school exam as far as the issues that just overwhelm you. I mean, it's just, and these are not minor issues, these are very significant issues. All right, conditions of the sale. So when your wonderful 85-year-old client who's never bought a house before and is just relying upon you, it's lost her husband and she's got her money from the sale of that house and she's going to invest and she's got all her hope and trust in you. And you're going through this and it's REO and it says, person acknowledges right away, seller obtained the property by foreclosure, all right? Real estate owned. It's usually foreclosure, deed in lieu, all right? So anybody read the newspapers and hear about the robo-signing and all those kind of things? Okay, hundreds of issues we don't have time to go over today, but needless to say, there are issues when REO companies take title to property by way of foreclosure. There's no end to the list of issues, all right? Now, the saving grace in all this would be your title policy, all right? Because the title company examines the title. And they examine, sometimes they do a good job, sometimes not. But as you know, with REO companies, a lot of times what they have is they have title companies from excuse me? Now, don't say Miami. Let's not disparage our friends in Miami.
I was going to say many times it is another state, and it is not the state of Florida. Absolutely.
And what's been set up here is that many times it is something somewhere other than the state of Florida. And you call and you swear they have, there are hundreds of people there and they're running around trying to do the best job they can. And they're just overwhelmed. And you're thinking, well, this is nice, make a couple calls, eventually I'll get this thing closed and it'll all be good. But they just warned you that they got this in a foreclosure. There are law firms that have 200, 300, 400 attorneys, and they're just cranking these things out, and they get $1,000 per foreclosure, and they don't, they're just trying to get them all through. So I won't go on and on about, all I'll say is this, that when you see that the seller obtained the property by foreclosure, pregnant with issues. All right, there's all kinds of things that could happen. And so you're even more reliant upon that title policy. All right, let's remember that. We've got huge issues and we're going to rely upon that title policy. That's going to be our friend. That's going to save the day for us here, okay? Deed in lieu, forfeiture, or similar process. In other words, we don't even know the meaning of the process. We're just going to say similar process. We're just going to put these people on notice. The contract of sale is subject to each of the following conditions. And what's the first thing? It says final acquisition of the property by the seller. We may not even own this property, all right? We're signing as a seller, and we're doing all this stuff, and we're making wheeling and dealing. We want your deposit. You've got to do all this, and we may not even own the property, all right? And once again, what you're relying upon there, well, I may not be an expert at this, but I've got that title company. They're gonna save my day. There are forces of evil out there in this world that are trying in every way possible to rock my world, to upset me, to upset my 85-year-old client that's relying on me. Her hopes, her prayers are all with me. And all of a sudden I'm realizing, holy smoke, so my hopes and prayers are with that title policy. Because, if they don't come through for me, if they don't discover some underlying issue with the foreclosure process, if they don't discover that this property is not owned by this REO company, then my client is not looking good here. All right. So, now, the ability of the seller to provide insurable title. Anybody see an issue there? The issue is this, that we've got a client, she's a lovely lady, she's relying upon me, and I've just figured out I'm putting all my money on that title company, all right? And who's the title company? They've got a, Pennsylvania's area code, and I call, and I keep getting handed off to different people, and I've had some experience in these kind of things. A lot of times things don't go well when you call a company and they just don't know what they're doing, or they don't get back to you, or whatever. I'm not real comfortable with this. But this word, provide insurable title, whether you know it or not, you are warm and fuzzy with a term called marketable title. All right? In Florida, just about everybody talks about marketable title. All right? Well, you get those attorneys that are talking and marketable, and what the heck is he talking about? This will rock your world, all right? As far as you get down the road, if this ever happens to you, you don't want to say, I saw the wooden horse, I smelled the men's cologne, I heard the sneezing, but I didn't really think anything of it, all right? Here's the cologne, here's the sneezing. It's an insurable title. It's not marketable title. In your FAR contract, what it says, and it's not a big, in big letters or anything like this, but what it says is that you are entitled to, and I'm not going to embarrass the crowd by asking how many people demand a copy of the title commitment, but you really should, and the contract says you're entitled to it 5 days before closing, all right? Well, I'm thinking, I don't want to be among a group that asks for something that's significant 5 days before closing. My client has spent money on inspections. My client is out of pocket a lot of money, and all of a sudden I'm going to call that title company that doesn't have time to return my calls. It's running around like their heads are cut off. I never get the same person twice, and I'm going to rely upon them to do this for me? I don't think so. So anyway, we should be doing, not only in REO contracts, but in any other contract, if you have a FAR contract, you're entitled to a copy of the title commitment. And if you don't understand what it says, what it's saying, then consult an attorney or somebody who does. You're used to the provision that says you're entitled to, within 5 days of closing, a title commitment. And then a little bit later in the contract, the number one condition A at the end, there's a long list of conditions, and it says title. And it says, hey, the buyer has 5 days after receiving the title commitment to notify the seller of an issue that would render the title unmarketable. All right? What the heck is he talking about? This is one of the greatest issues that I think, and one that can blow you right out of the water. Once if there's a lien listed on a title commitment, if there's all these things that you're familiar with, the title company, okay, man, we're going to say today, these are the title companies in Florida, because we deal with marketable title. They have an obligation to solve that issue. All right, if there's a lien, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that there are proceeds available from the sale to pay off that lien. If there is a mortgage, everybody, we're all familiar with that, they're going to do a search, they're going to find the mortgage, they're going to contact the mortgage company, they're going to get a payoff, you're going to be covered. All right? Marketable, that's because they have an obligation. This is marketable title. They have the obligation to find problems. They have the obligation before the closing to resolve those issues. All right? Up in Pennsylvania, in other states where they sell insurable title, it's a different world. Eventually, you'll get your problem, whether it's a lien or an encroachment or whatever, those issues. If someone at some point in the future says, hey, I've got a lien, I want to get it paid, or hey, I've got an encroachment, your building encroaches on my property, you're going to have to pay me a bunch of money because either that or you're going to have to tear your building down. Those kind of issues, those are title issues. And when you have, this is the REO contract, your client is signing, and they are going to provide insurable title. And what that means in a nutshell is, if there's a problem and nobody's making an issue of it, then they don't have to solve it at that time. You can close. You have insurance. And at some point in the future, if somebody comes out of the woodwork and says, wait a minute, or files a suit against your buyer, and your buyer says, wait a minute, why did I get sued? And you explain, well, it's not that big a deal because we have insurance for that. And it's all going to be taken care of. Well, now wait a minute, let's go back to the robo signing. All right? There are situations where it doesn't matter how great your insurable title is, doesn't matter how great a title company or title underwriter you have up there in Pennsylvania, the Florida attorney says, well, this person that owned the property wasn't included in the foreclosure. We've got to do another foreclosure. So that's some bad news. We've got 9 months to a year where, and we're going to win, don't worry about that, but where your buyer doesn't own the property. All right? That's what you have with insurable title. Now the best example, and I could go on and on, but I won't. The best example is this. Let's say you have somebody who has their heart set on this property. It's an REO property. You have insurable title, and that person says, man, I'm going to buy this for $120. I've got a contract for $220. I'm rich. I'm going to make $100,000. They close. He has insurable title. There's a title issue. The buyer, imagine this. He's been in Florida all his life, and he always wants marketable title. And you say, well, I've got insurable title. That's not, I don't want insurable title. I don't want any part of that. There are issues that are unresolved. And when those people come out of the woodwork and they say, I'm making my claim on this property, it should have been taken care of, and you didn't take care of it, then the insurable title underwriter will say, well, we'll take care of this. But wait a minute. We've got a guy who's about to make $100,000. All he's got to do is file bar contract, marketable title. He can't produce marketable title because you accepted insurable title. All right? So back to your client, 85 years old, that client or your flip client. What you have to explain is if you sign this contract, I want to make sure you know that you're getting insurable title. You may not, a week after you close, be able to sell and make $100,000 because all you're getting is insurable title. Any questions?
Thank you.
So based on what you just said,
Uh-huh.
if you bought this property and 3 years later went to sell it and have it in the MLS, are you able to do that marketable title? Or is that a defect that you need to prepare for?
Well, now, see, it's not your decision to make, what you're going to do. You're going to have when you use the 5-bar contract,
Correct.
what you're saying, that nowhere in there says, we're going to have marketable title, hooray, big letters, whatever. They're just two provisions. One says you're entitled to a copy of the title commitment, and then if you've got a beef, and that the beef is based on, there's some defect that makes it unmarketable, or something less than marketable title, then you have an opportunity to give the title company and the seller notice that this is not marketable title. There is a defect, and it needs to be cured before closing. So the process is that you're going to sign a 5-bar contract. You've got to get the title examined, and it could be with the passage of time the issue has been resolved, but if it hasn't, then that title company, because we're in Florida and we're dealing with marketable title, they're going to have to do work to resolve that issue. And if for some reason that issue is not resolvable within the 45 days to close, we all know that, hey, well, we're going to close in 45 days. We got this, we got that, kids in school, whatever, 45 days. And if you say, ooh, insurable, marketable, not sure, why don't we do 90 days? Because you're not sure whether that insurable title issue is still could be an issue. So all I'm saying is that it could be a problem if you're trying to go from what you have, which is insurable title, to marketable title. Right.
So if you were taking a listing for a property that was acquired from a REO process, would it not be prudent to have that person do a title search prior to listing and going in that aspect?
I think that's a great idea. Now there'll be a charge to do the search, but of course now if you close with that title company, it wouldn't. But I would say that would be an excellent thing to do, because even before that, when you have the title commitment before you close on the REO, another issue. When you have something you're warm and fuzzy, comfortable with, the title company comes back and says, here's the title commitment, and you say, okay, there's a defect. Now see, this process that from this point forward, it's all something we're used to. Hey, got a defect, we need you to check this out. When you sign this contract, this process is out the window, because once their underwriter can say, we can give you an insurable title, and you're thinking, well, that's not the title I want. Well, if you sign that contract, you've agreed to take the insurable title, all right? So if there's an issue that you don't want to be any part of, and they say, oh, no problem, we're going to insure over that. We'll provide insurance, no problem. Then once you sign that contract, you have no rights to cancel that contract based on a title issue.
David, so if you
Yes, you in the back.
insurable title,
Yep.
is it possible that they could even say, hey, yeah, it's insurable with this exception? And therefore, now the exception's there, and now, hey, we're waiving and we don't even have to fix that.
And
Because we were able to do it, insure it, based upon that terminology, and the exception's there, you were made aware of it, have a great day, talk to you.
Well, and I haven't even gotten to exceptions, because they could list exceptions, and you don't, they say, okay, there's the exception, there's a second mortgage that we're not going to pay off. Wait a minute. All right. So in addition to the insurable marketable issue, you always have to check the exceptions, because that's a list of what they're saying that you're going to take title subject to. And all this money being paid and all this work, here's a list of the things, even though you've done all this work, you're still taking title subject to all of these conditions.
Okay, so now you presented a big problem.
Yeah.
I'm a solutions guy.
Yeah.
All right. How do you solve that? Insurable title is not what we like here. We like marketable title.
Mm-hmm.
when Don's gonna come back and say, don't you dare touch that contract,
Mhm.
because if you touch that contract and change a word, you add a comma where there's supposed to be a period or vice versa, I'm going with another offer.
Right. Yep.
So now what do you do?
Well, I think the easiest thing to do would be to, and there is, I think in most of the contracts, some don't have, but there is an option where you can pay for the buyer can pay for title insurance. All right. Now, of course, the buyer has to understand that they're going to have to add this cost to our sheet here. And so this is, instead of it being this number, we're going to have to add this amount of money. But then at least you would know that you have marketable title.
Perfect.
All right.
And so I'd just be curious on Don's thought on that. Would, if you did that, is that a possible to move that expense like to the off? You just, okay.
I would suggest, if you are uncomfortable with a contract and you are uncomfortable with a title company out of state, then you ask your buyer if they want to, take in that cost to have their own David Rankin look at that, run the title search. Then they know up front you have an issue with title. You know that right up front. At that point, the contract probably will not let you out of it, but your buyer's better off losing $1,000 now if they will not give them back that escrow, knowing there is a title issue, versus closing that property and later down the road it being thousands and thousands of dollars. Most asset managers are not monsters. I make them out to be monsters because by the end of the day, I do think they're monsters. But if you came back to them and said, look, and you had proof that there was an issue with this title, and we understand you can keep our escrow, but please, we can't close this because it's not marketable title. There are times they may not make an exception, but again, I think you're better off knowing that up front than you are down the road. And I have investors that refuse to use a bank's title company just for that reason. They will only use their own title company because they do an in-depth search.
Yes.
So, yeah, so they really, if you're the purchaser of this and you have that insurable title, down the road when you go to try to sell the property, it's a flag right there. So they really do need the marketable title, correct?
Well, no, I don't want to overstate it. What you're talking about is 9.9 on the Richter scale. What I'm talking about is about a 9.0. What you have insurable, and what the title company, what the title underwriter, not the agent, but the underwriter is saying, hey, if somebody comes out and they say, what about me, then they're saying that we'll take care of that. But realize in the world of, excuse me?
Yeah, it's something that may or may not happen.
Right, I would say most of the issues that come up, the title, because they got lots of money and they got lots of attorneys, they can get it solved somehow. But there are issues that, like the robo-signing, fundamental issue with the robo-signing is things weren't done that were supposed to have been done. The final judgment of foreclosure is not valid. So really the new owner that bought it at the sale or who gets it from the REO company who got it at the sale, they don't really own the property.
So it might be a red flag if you're looking at that property's history and you see where there was a foreclosure and it was Bank of America or it was Chase or somebody where a lot of that was going on. That might be a red flag that you might really want to look at that. If there was no foreclosures or anything and it's always had free and clear title.
Well, even if it has, see what you're doing, you're doing a little bit of practicing law. You don't want to do that. What you're in our system, what we do, being a solutions guy, I just became a believer. I'm a solutions guy now, all right? And the solution is it's that title company that issues marketable title. What they're saying is we've reviewed all the foreclosures, reviewed whatever's in there, we're with you. If it's an issue, we're gonna resolve it before closing. And all right, okay. What kind of time we got here? Yeah, 10:30. Okay. I had a bunch of other stuff, but anyway, there are just huge issues, and I want to make sure that Don gets it. See, I'm the guy that makes you think that, holy smoke, this is really difficult. Do I really want to get involved? And I know there's money to be made. I can reach. I know I can get there. And now I've got this huge mountain. It's called this addendum. I just want to make sure we haven't gone over 1/10 of the issues. I just want to make sure that you're aware that there are issues. That's an issue, and there are more issues like that. But we want to have, Dawn has got a very practical perspective. She's dealt with the Dark Star, the Darth Vaders, and she knows, much better than I do, how these people think, what works, that kind of thing. So we're going to bring Dawn up here, and I'd be glad, if you have questions afterward, I'd be glad to talk with you about that. Or if you have a client that you need to have run through the contract, that's what I can do for you. So Dawn.
Thank you, Tim.
You're very welcome.
And I would say, again, when you're dealing with an REO, none of us are attorneys, and I say that in here. If you need help with a buyer interpreting a contract, you need to seek legal advice. You should not go paragraph by paragraph. Oh, I forgot about the little thing. I'm Italian. I talk kind of loud.
This is just for the video.
Okay. Have an attorney review it. Do not sit down with a client and review, Freddie Mac's an 8-page addendum. Bank of America 17. Homesearch.com, I think was, am I doing this wrong? Homesearch.com is massive. And I've had clients call me in the last 2 weeks saying, well, they're telling me if in this contract that if there's a lien on the property, it's my responsibility. What do you have to say to that? I said, buyer beware and call an attorney, because I am not an attorney and I certainly can't represent you in that manner. And I'm not reviewing, especially an auction property. There are some major, major scary stories out there on an auction property. And I can tell you right now, every listing that is Nation Star goes to auction. And once you've given that escrow, and they don't even give you an inspect period. So you better know what you're doing when you go into it, and I will not, I personally, everybody's own decision, I will not represent a buyer on an auction property at all. Because first of all, they're asking for credit cards. I don't want your credit card information. There's just some things I don't want. So the biggest advice I can give you today is buyer beware. If you're concerned about title, have them pay the owner's title policy. Have another title company look at it. Make sure it is marketable title. And if it's not, then go back and see if you can cancel that. Again, your buyer is better off losing an escrow than 2 years down the road. Set the right expectations, guys, when you're selling an REO property.
Don, with that, so you say have the buyer do that. You're saying in at least the Freddie Mac, Nation Star, they have a provision where you can check, or do you addend the addendum saying the buyer reserves the right to purchase their own?
You generally, when you do the FAR bar as is, and any REO is going to be on an as is, check that. Check that the buyer wants to obtain their own title policy and pay for it. A lot of times, even as an agent, sometimes I'm putting in 10 offers at a time. Put that in the other provisions of the contract too, so that it stands out. And that way, when we're submitting an REO offer, we can check it. We can tell them right up front, now, we're not using, your title company. This buyer is going to pay for their own title policy.
So that's done before the addendum even comes.
That is done at contract. We need to know that as a listing agent up front, because that is part of the contract terms that we're submitting to the seller.
David, would there be any potential thing in the addendum that comes back that eats that rule?
Normally, there's an election that can be, some of the contracts say you can make an election.
Okay.
But as long as there's nothing that contradicts that.
Okay.
And what I would do, a lot of the contracts are like that, where it says that they will provide insurable. Really what you're talking about is you're going to reduce their costs, and your buyer is going to incur some costs. Their costs go down. Rare that they're going to object to that.
Right. I've never had any of mine, whether it's Fannie, Freddie, Bank of America. Bank of America calls for it on their last page, I think page 17 of 17, if you're using your own title company. So they're all pretty fair in the fact that if you want to incur that cost and do that, then by all means, I would encourage that. But again, set the right expectations. You need to let these folks know this was obtained through REO, through foreclosure, through deed in lieu of foreclosure. I have Bank of America properties that have contracts, escrows, inspections, and close 2 to 3 months later because the CT has not been recorded in the bank's name.
CT?
The certificate of title. The certificate of title hasn't even been recorded yet. And a lot of times with some of these out-of-state title companies, I'm looking for it. I have to go find it.
And, I'm on the docket, I'm looking, just to help the folks get it closed. So there are a lot of issues. Buyer beware, and make your buyer aware of the issues. When you're submitting an REO offer, please do the best to follow the instructions in the MLS. I know a lot of them are overwhelming, especially the Freddie, but there are property condition addendums that are in the MLS for Freddie that have to be signed and dated by a buyer. Those dates are requested by us as listing agents when we submit the offer. So if the offer isn't completely typed, handwritten is awful, guys, we get them and I can't read them, and that makes me mad, and then I call and I yell, and because I got 20 offers on a property. So just, it's really helpful if you follow the instructions in the MLS. If you don't understand them, you're better off picking up the phone and calling that agent, and hopefully that agent will be kind enough to, go over those with you. Yes.
As a lister myself, sometimes if there's websites within the realtor-only one, please use those as well.
Yes.
Because that puts it into a format that makes our job as listing agents a tad bit easier.
Yeah, especially with Fannie Mae, because those offers have to be uploaded onto HomePath. Freddie Mac's not like that. You don't list them onto Home Steps, but there are a lot of places where you go directly to the website and upload offers, or just as a listing agent, they have their own websites that allow you to submit all your paperwork, and that way they can just pull it. So it does make it easier.
Carrington has a site in the Carrington.
Carrington, yes. A lot of us are dealing with LLCs and companies buying property. Make sure you have articles of incorporation, operating agreements. Who is the signatory? Because again, a lot of times when we are uploading the offer, especially for Freddie, I have to know who the signatory is. I have to put that person into the system. People are funny with their trust docs, and I get that. That's confidential. But be prepared that the title company is going to ask for trust docs. You don't have to give them to the listing agent, but when the title company asks for them, you really need to prepare that buyer. And if the buyer is a big REO buyer, he should be aware of these issues and be prepared to submit these documents to title. Confirm with your listing agent that they received the offer. We get a lot of offers in. So, just a little quick email. Hey, Dawn, confirm you received this. I immediately email back, yes, offer received, will be uploaded today. I had a gentleman call me Friday on a property that had multiple offers, and he said, did I win the bid? And I said, what are your buyers' names? And he told me, and I said, I do not have an offer from you. Well, I sent it. Well, I went through my junk mail. I went through everything. I did not have it. Lucky enough for me, his buyer would not have won the bid, but it worried me because he said, well, I sent it. Well, I didn't have it. And, we all rely on our emails and everything, but sometimes systems go down. So just confirm it. Allow up to 72 hours, especially if we're in a multiple offer situation. If I have 15 offers on a property and I have 10 agents emailing me 5 times a day, it's hard because you're trying to keep up with all your work and everything. REO is very task-driven. We're loaded with tasks. Most of the banks are in California and Colorado. So I'm still working at 9 o'clock at night because it's what you have to do. So be patient and allow time, please. A lot of them are going into multiple offers. I know Freddie will, Fannie will, and Bank of America. We have to turn in those multiple offer forms. If your buyer refuses to sign that, understandably, just advise the agent of that, but we in turn have to let the seller know because we have to turn in those multiple offer forms. Work with your listing agent, you as a selling agent, and the title company. There are issues at closing. David will tell you. Jackie Collins and I have one closing today. It's closing in what, Jackie, 2 weeks? We got this done in 2 weeks.
She had to step out.
Jackie's not here. I'm talking to Jackie and she's not even here. Great, Jackie. But, we got it done very, very quickly. Now, with Freddie, this house did have a title issue. I had 5 offers on this house, and the asset manager came back to me and said, you have to move this off the market temporarily because we have a title issue. So the nice thing with my Freddie properties is they'll tell me up front, I'll move it off the market, and then we'll reactivate it. I've actually had 2 with that, and it has taken months for them to clear those. During the robo signing, we had people sitting at a closing table. ready to roll. We had to stop the closing because it was the whole robo-signing issue. So they're trying to eliminate some of them, title issues up front, but again, buyer beware. David said it, that addendum always supersedes your contract. This is pretty much reiterating what David said. You're not an attorney. I would not read that paragraph for paragraph. I would not try to interpret it. I would send them to an attorney. That is your safest and your best bet.
Future home agents, everybody, okay, you guys hear that? You are not an attorney. Raise your right hand, future home agents. I am not an attorney. I will send my clients to an attorney. I will not make any representations regarding that addendum. It's all on recorded. You got it, all right? Okay.
It's just safer for you all. And, don't be embarrassed by telling your buyer, I'm not an attorney. This is a 17-page addendum written by an attorney, or many attorneys. And their attorneys are much bigger than us. So seek that. You don't have to seek it. If they want to get involved with it, and there are some people that I got it, and they just sign. Okay, well, understand what you're signing because I can't interpret it. Pay attention to your inspect days. Freddie and Fannie will give you 10. Most of them give you 7. Not an auction property. Let's put that on a whole back burner. Get your inspections done in the time frame allowed. Because if you cancel during that time frame, your buyer will, the escrow will be returned. If it's afterwards, they'll keep it. They won't even blink an eye. They will keep it. So make sure all those inspections and that you're following the timelines of that contract. Per diems. If you are a cash buyer and you are supposed to close December 10th, and you're out of town, you just don't feel like closing, you're going to close on the 11th, they're going to charge you a per diem. And that per diem usually for an investor is $100 a day. If you have a delay in closing due to financing and you're upfront about it, and the listing agent contacts the asset manager, they will generally work with you and allow you time. One time they'll do that. If you extend it again, due to lending, they're probably going to charge that buyer anywhere from $50 to $100 a day. And I just had one close 2 weeks ago where the buyer had to pay $500 in fees because their lender didn't get it closed in time. Banks will generally allow 45 to 60 days for FHA or VA, 30 to 45 for conventional, anywhere from 15 to 30 for cash. So make sure you stay in those guidelines because they will keep your escrow. They will. And don't ask the listing agent if the bank's going to pay a per diem because they don't have certificate of title, because they're not going to. I've had buyers actually call me angry that were represented by another agent that the bank were not going to pay them a per diem. That's not going to happen, y'all. Banks don't pay per diems. Buyers pay per diems. And again, I said it earlier, most of us think of asset managers as monsters someday. They're just doing their job. I may have 60 listings, but they probably have 400 files on their desk. So in the end, they want their properties to close successfully. They don't want them coming back and then starting the market process over. So just, be honest with the listing agent. If you know something up front that's going to, hinder a closing date or financing, you're better off letting them know up front than waiting till, D-Day. Then they're like, why didn't you tell me this a week ago? So just try to be upfront and honest. Most of us who do REO have a buyer data cover sheet. That's important to complete. I need to know many times, is this a homeowner, an investor? I need your information. I need the buyer's information. And we have right on there about, trust, not the trust docs, but the articles of incorporation, because a lot of these questions are the questions we have to answer when we are uploading your buyer's offer. If you don't know something, pick up the phone and just talk to the listing agent. I'll talk to people all day long. I'd rather you call me and ask me a question than submit something where I'm pulling my hair out because I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Make sure the names are correct. Freddie Mac will make you cancel an offer not do an addendum, cancel it and completely start over if a name is incorrect, if there's a change in finance. So I know things happen at times and there are changes, but just beware that there are times a seller will have you completely cancel an offer and start over in order for that paperwork to be correct in the end. So mine was real brief. But auction properties are truly sold as is. Like I said, I had a guy call me yesterday on home search. Well, are they going to pay the liens? I don't know. Did you read the addendum, sir? How do I get it? Go to the website, obtain the addendum, call home search, seek legal advice. These auctions, as a listing agent, we lose all control of a listing when they send it to auction. There is nothing I can do for anyone. Like I said, I don't represent buyers because I don't want your credit card in my system, in anything. So, and the auction companies, they pay a 1% commission to a selling agent. You're buying a $30,000 house. It's not, to me, it's not worth the risk. So, yeah.
Can I just ask a question on that? So in the MLS, a lot of times the auction property will have a commission that is not 1%. However, you come over to auction.com and it is in that. So what are they paying?
Well, it all depends on your listing agreement. I can tell you ours with Nation Star is 1% to a selling agent. So if it's anything different in the MLS, you really need to clarify that with the listing agent and the listing agreement. We all have listing agreements, but I can tell you Nation Star is 1% for a selling agent. So you're buying a $30,000 house and you're getting 1% of that, and you're going to interpret some legal. Well, you shouldn't interpret it, but try and assist somebody? I don't think so. It's not worth it. Yes?
I understand a lot of times the MLS rule from the listing agent conflicts with what we're told from the banks in California. So understand your MLS rule, what gets put in there for what gets paid out, and understand what the listing agent is telling you, and consult your broker.
Right. I agree. A lot of times they want you to put verbiage into the MLS that is not allowed. I go right back to the asset manager and say, that's not allowed in our MLS, and we're not going to put it in our MLS. And they usually will say, oh, okay, all right, Dawn, I understand. So there is a lot of time the verbiage won't. But that listing agreement should match the commission in the MLS.
In reality, Dawn, the MLS rules basically state that no offer of compensation can be conditioned upon any other issues, other than the ones that govern short sales, because that is a rule within the MLS. But the problem is that with the 1% that Nation Star pays, the broker is actually obligated to pay, if it says 3%, the other 2%.
Sure, absolutely.
They can arbitrate it and win.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
They can take it to arbitration and win and get paid that other 2%.
Well, that makes sense, yeah. And we have actually,
Yours, right?
yes, sir. And I have had, I'm going to tell you something, Mike and I have had future home agents call us and scream at us at how dare we pay a 1% commission. And I told that agent, you call me like that again and we'll just conference Bob right in, and I'll give Bob the listing agreement, because we as listing agents do not dictate what the seller is going to pay as a commission. You know, if you see a 1% commission, understand you're going to do that work for 1%. If you don't want anything to do with it, that's your business decision to make. But please understand, it's not the listing agent's issue. Right.
With your buyer, they make it the difference, by the way.
Absolutely.
It's a buyer agency agreement where you're going to pay me 3, I'm going to get paid 3. If I only get 1 from them, then you're going to kick in the other 2, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. That's the way I roll. So.
And yes, sir.
On the auction properties, in the MLS, it'll have this property is under auction.
Auction terms, sure.
Okay, but on the auction website, the auction does not start, say, for another week.
Right.
Now, will the bank or the owner accept an offer before the auction date?
Buy it now.
Mine will not. Nation Star will not. Nation Star, the portal I work in is a creator for Nation Star, and I have a lot of folks ask me that. Can I submit an offer to you? No, because the offer button is not even illuminated for me to click to upload an offer. Each seller may be different. I can only speak for Bank of America and Nation Star.
If the buyer ends up buying on homesearch.com and does put your name down there, understand that commission is not with the buyer premium added on.
Right. Right. It's not with the buyer premium, because that's how the auction house makes their money. And they all have, there's a minimum or 5%.
Right. You
It's,
get that information eventually from the listing agent, but make sure that you understand when you're looking at the HUD for your buyer, because your buyer should be asking you to look at that HUD.
Yes.
But the title company gets it right, splits it out correctly, and bases it on the contract price, not the contract price plus the free.
exactly. You're exactly right. Again, any buyer that does an auction, you really need to do any inspections or any discovery up front, because they will, again, retain your escrow. Never think twice about it.
Is it true the auction sites will actually bid against the buyer during the contract process?
I have not heard that. I've not heard that. Could be, I can't speak to that. I do know that I have a lot of folks call me and say, well, you know, the bid's 12 and it hasn't met reserve. What's the reserve? Well, guess what? They're not telling us what the reserve is. They never tell the listing agent what the reserve is. I would think a lot of these auction companies, auction.com, Home Search, they're nationwide companies. Again, they have a lot of attorneys. I can't imagine, and I would hope that that would not be the case, that an auction company was bidding against a buyer in order to increase a price. That's just not ethical. And I would hope that wouldn't happen, but I can't guarantee that, nor can I speak to it.
But if you go to an absolute auction at Higginbotham, all right, and you don't think that the seller's brother-in-law is back in there making sure I'm getting my minimum reserve, because I ain't selling it for a dollar, trust me. So I'm going to have to make sure
Right.
the brother-in-law is there, jack that thing up and never close, right? So absolute auction sells for whatever we get.
Right.
Yeah, I doubt that it happens, but.
Yeah. So any general questions? I kind of skipped over the title stuff and the title commitment. You know, David's right. Always review a title commitment, or make sure your buyer's getting a title commitment. You know, you guys can always, there were some of the questions, how do I know it's not a sinkhole? Check for permits. Go to the property on the county website, see if there are any open permits. It's really easy to do.
I was at an event recently and said a blue report from insurances will also give you some feedback on what may have been claimed in the past 5 years, I believe.
Oh, good.
A clue report from your insurance agent.
Real quickly, before we get into the Q&A, because I know there's plenty of Q&A. First of all, how many of you guys have dealt with bank-owned property before? How many of you called an REO listing agent before? Did you know that Dawn's an anomaly, right? She actually wants to talk to people. She actually will communicate with you, all right? Most REO listing agents hide in a cubicle, right? And you try and get a hold of them. And Cindy, thank you very much. I got 2 exceptions in the room. But most of them will hide from you. So I thank you for coming first.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, coming out. That's awesome.
Thanks. Thanks.
Dawn is just, you know, REO listing agent and personality are usually oxymoronic. Okay, but Dawn actually does it and does a great job. Real quickly, there's a attendance sheet floating around. Anybody know where that is? Or, okay, make sure that just put a check next to if you're here to see your name. If you didn't, make sure it's passed around so we can get it. Mostly so I can hammer on the people who signed up and didn't show up. All right, to do it. Okay, you guys ready for Q&A? How about I'm going to stand up here because I want to make sure we speak the question in for the recording, and we can roll. So I'll moderate this, that way you don't have to yell it down.
Can I just jump in?
You may jump in. Jump.
All right. I jumped in. Last one lasted an hour, so it won't be that. So she was encouraging everybody to tell your buyers to consult an attorney. Of course, the question is, well, what if they don't? From a save my
assets
and save my broker's
assets.
The ideal situation would be you would have a form that says it's a complex.
That's a great
lots
idea.
of issues, and I've been advised to consult an attorney, and I have chosen not to. All right, because then, if for some reason they make a complaint with the Florida Real Estate Commission, and I didn't know about all these things. If you have that form signed, then most of 99 times out of 100, that case is over. Now, Problem is that sometimes you're not in the same room or whatever. The next best thing would be send them an email saying, I've advised you on other occasions and you've chosen to move forward. And it's for you to have an attorney review it, and you just have a self-serving and have them acknowledge that they received it. That's second. What you want to do is you want to save your own, and you want to save
Assets.
Assets,
So,
all over the place.
That's how you do that.
David,
I was just
to that,
gonna say
thank
that.
you very much. And so we really can't create that because we've been practicing law to create that addendum, right? That says that they've done that. So I just need to have a conference call with you, right?
Sure.
Billable hours even. To write that addendum for us so we can get that
Yeah,
done.
because your
So.
seller's not gonna sign that.
Okay,
addendum.
here we go.
But as long as
Ready
you-
questions? Are you guys ready? Rapid fire, here they come. No, stay up here, Dawn. I'm sure you
Oh, I
have
was
some questions
running,
to
man,
answer.
I was.
Do you have a standard fee for somebody to look at somebody's addendum? Do you have a
Actually,
standard
I'm
fee?
gonna leave this on you, and so it'll pick you up as well.
We're together.
There you go.
Okay. Now, do we do a little?
You can dance, except for I don't know my right from left, so.
The problem with giving a one size fits all is that there are contracts that are 65 pages, there are some that are 25. I have absolutely no problem if somebody wants to call, and I'll give them, you just let me know the number of pages and which one it is, and we can give you a quick.
You guys hear that question? The question was, does he have a standard fee that he would charge? And he says there is no standard. It depends on the size and the length and the depth of the addendum. But that was the question.
But could you give a range? I mean, 350 to 1,000? I mean, I'm just.
No, 350 to 500
Yeah.
would be fine. And the only problem is if they want to come in and there's a long conversation, then that kind of blows the 500 because it just takes time to read the whole thing. And so.
But even if you cased it, in general, it's typically 350 to 500.
That's correct.
Less than a home inspection to be protected.
That's exactly right.
And hopefully you're buying a foreclosure, right? So the goal would be that you're saving at least that amount of money because you're buying a foreclosure for the sole purpose of getting a better deal, right? Supposedly, right, compared to everything else on the market. So, man, you're going to spend the money, like Cindy said, to spend $450 for a home inspection, spend $350 to $500 to have a contracted inspection.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not a bad idea at all.
And one last thing. Whether you retain me or some other attorney, it is absolutely not an issue to get that price quoted up front, have them send an email, so there just is no issue down the road. You're perfectly within your rights, and if an attorney says, well, I'm not going to, you've sent me the contract, but I'm not going to give you a number, then move on to a different attorney because that's...
Fixed price, fixed pricing is what we want here. We don't want all this, cost me $8,000. It's because David's house had a leak the other day, and he decided he needed to pay for his roof. Thank you very much. The prices went up to $8,000. So, very good. We had it here.
The contract example addendum that you used was Freddie Mac?
That was a Freddie Mac.
Okay.
Yes.
So my question in that is that I'm gonna assume, and you'll never assume anything, I see you smiling, that's a Freddie Mac contract, that's what they use. So in that thing where it said insurable title, it doesn't mean you're not getting marketable title, right? I guess that's my question.
It's a lower threshold. Am I correct?
Well, the initial response is it depends on how lucky you are that day.
Right.
But as far as what things you can count on, there could be that there are no issues that would render it non-marketable. Then an insured on that same property would be just as good because there's nothing to resolve right away. Whatever issues need to be resolved have been resolved. But if it's a different scenario, if it's an issue that is there, the person who could assert it is not, then they can rest. That's insurable title. But it depends. You've got to look at the title commitment to see whether you're in that category where insurable would be just as good as marketable. Unless you're looking at the title commitment, you wouldn't know.
And let's put it this way. All marketable title is insurable, but not all insurable title is marketable. Let's go back to my map and do the Venn diagram where they overlap and things that don't, okay? All right, so just realize that marketable is a higher, it holds more weight than insurable.
Well, I guess that's what, would if there are no issues, would they go ahead and give you a marketable title? Or will they always give you insurable title? That's what I'm trying to.
The policy will have the insurable title language, but it may be, if all issues have been taken care of and there are no defects that would render it unmarketable, then your insurable title could be just as good as a marketable title insurance, all right?
How do you know?
You have to look at the title commitment to see what issues have been identified.
We have one over here that's been hanging for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
My question had to do with, so that we'll get the buyer to pay for the title insurance. Doesn't the addendum still say insurable title? I'm a little confused.
Okay, the question was, so you get your buyer to say that they're gonna choose the title company and pay for their own policy. They are gonna pay for an insurance, title insurance policy. Doesn't the contract still say insurable versus
Yes,
marketable?
it does.
Okay, so what's the,
Well, the answer is this, while the contract may say insurable, that's the obligation, that's describing the obligation of the REO seller, all right? So what you're doing separate and apart from that is you're contracting with a national underwriter to issue a marketable title policy. So you're not, whatever contract obligations the REO company has, what you said is, we're going to get our own policy. And so you would have a policy directly with one of the national underwriters that writes title insurance in Florida.
and what happens is, if you come back and your title company says, we can't deliver in marketable title, we've done our search, then it's decision time for your buyer, because now, some asset managers may say, okay, let's do what we need to do to make this buyer comfortable and get it marketable. Or you might say, hey, you know what, $1,000, all right, they're not gonna give me my escrow back. Better a little regret today than a big pain in the backside tomorrow.
Right.
All right, let's get out of here.
So it's
and
just
move on.
then you just
You-
can walk away.
You cannot change a contract. You cannot change, you can't outline anything, write marketable, but if you hire your own title policy or your own attorney and they check a title policy and they tell you it's not marketable, then you go back to the listing agent with the exact details. That listing agent should go to that asset manager and say, look, this is not a marketable title. We have an issue. Each asset manager is different, but generally speaking, I would think you could get escrow back for that. That's something you can start doing right up front. You have a 10-day inspect period. How long does it take to do a title search?
You can get it in 2 or 3 days if you've got I mean, it's possible. But,
there's your answer.
Yeah,
There
you can.
go. Great,
Right.
great plan of action is to do it during that inspection period, get that done. I'm sure I would negotiate with David and say, hey, look, since you own a title company, and I'm gonna have you look at this contract, let's talk bundle pricing now.
Now we're talking.
All
But we went through something really quickly there. When you sign the contract, it says the only obligation of the REO is to provide insurable title, all right? And you, along with the executed contract, you send in your deposit. And what was shared with you, and I didn't want anybody to miss the significance of this, is that once they've got your money, and once they can provide insurable title, they can keep your contracts, they can keep your deposit, all right? And what she was saying was that, hey, sometimes there are some exceptions to the rule. There's some nice people, okay, maybe this is not fair, but they are not obligated. As a matter of fact, their rights, they're perfectly within their rights, because you have agreed to it when your buyer signs to accept insurable title, the deposit, whatever chance you have of getting the deposit back, if they can produce insurable title, is gone, and the only hope you have of getting it for your client is, golly gee, would you please? So another one of those conversations that you have with the client, so it doesn't upset them or whatever, you're paying this deposit, but I just want to make sure that you know. Anyway.
But to Don's point, you do it during the inspection period, so you have your as-is out. Right. You can just say, hey, look, I wasn't comfortable with the results of the home
Which means you have to move quick. And with Freddie, I'm sorry.
Well,
Go ahead.
dovetail that, because you said in the auction, I just want to be clear, that's only in a non-auction property. In an
Correct.
auction
Yes.
property, when you push the button and win, let me just clarify, you owe 5% and you owe deposit, like you're kind of.
Your escrow is not your 5%. Generally, your 5%, am I correct, is tacked on once that's how they make their money if it closes, but you do have to give an escrow. Auctions, everything we're talking about today has nothing to do with auctions. You're swimming, and there is a big, big shark behind you.
On your homesearch.com site, you do have to put a deposit on your credit card. That does apply on your HUD for deposit.
Right.
If they will come down the line and say they require 10% down, or whatever home search broker is required.
Right.
From the home search website, it's a 71-page contract.
Whoa.
Electronically signed.
That's why David won't give a range. 71 page,
And I'm
prices
telling
went up.
you, it is a nightmare for me, and I have gotten the damn.
So,
Yeah.
But
just,
it's my business and I have to run it the way I have to.
Right.
Leslie,
Okay, so on the REO contract, it has the two places where you can check that you wanna use their title company and.
Some of them do, some of them
Okay,
don't.
so
That's
the ones
something
that
you
do-
want to do in your as-is up front and relate to the listing agent. My buyer will be selecting and paying for the title policy.
In the additional term.
additional terms.
And on whatever page
Yeah,
you think I would know what page it is. Page
Most of
3?
these addendums have an area for this.
Some of them do.
Buyer picks, buyer pays, seller pays.
Freddie does, and Fannie does, and Bank of America does on either page 16 or 17. So some of them do, and because you got to understand that bank addendum is generated from the website once an offer is accepted. Those terms are just copied right over to the addendum.
Right, you fill it out, but then it's not good until it's accepted, and then they send it all back to you and you have to do it again.
Now, it's a little different. Fannie, your inspect days start at acceptance, not execution. Pay attention to that. Freddie is at execution. Fannie is at acceptance.
Legally though, isn't it in writing? I mean, could you come back and say, because sometimes you don't get the
Not with Fannie.
contract in writing till a week later from REO.
But Fannie sends you an email as an agent and says
But if
right
you
in the
went to
email.
court with that, would it be in writing that you're fighting against, or the word?
You never, I would say there's very little chance you'd ever go to court because there's another provision that usually limits your remedy to $1,000. And if you're sitting across the table, it'd probably cost you almost $1,000 to get a consult with an attorney. By the time you think about moving forward on that, you say that's way too much money, they win. So the other provision in the contract takes care of that. You don't have that option.
That's right. All right, you go ahead.
Let's go, here we got a
Does the
question.
clock start clicking at the time of the email from the listing agent or from the moment we receive the contract?
Well, it depends on if it's Freddie or Fannie or who it is. If it's Fannie, you're going to get an email that notifies you that your buyer's offer has been accepted, and today is your effective date, not date of execution, acceptance. Freddie is the day, and unfortunately, you're dealing with title companies that are in Miami, so they could have signed it yesterday, but you and the agent don't get it today. You've lost 24 hours. You can fight them all you want, but if they dated it the 17th and you don't receive it till the 18th, you've lost a day. Pay attention to, inspect period is usually called out pretty,
Don't cut it
it's
close,
concise.
first of all.
Yeah.
Get the things done, all right? Get it done and pretend it's 3.
Right.
All right? Just get the stinking things done. If you got something, an email back that says you
Set up your
got it, it's
inspections.
yours, then go get it done.
Don't wait till the last minute.
Yeah.
Have a home inspector, you call, hey, let's roll on this, and he can get it done pretty quick, or she.
Hands? Anybody else? Cindy?
Some of your REO listings are reverse mortgages that are put back on the market.
I've had one, I will not accept anymore. They are a nightmare.
I did them, and they're a little more forgiving than some of the other properties.
It was tough, the one I had. It was a little over my head, and I thought, nah, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
You may be able to kind of touch on.
Okay.
HUD rules, the listing prices and things.
Right.
Do you know anything about the HUD rules of what we have to list them at?
That's you, not me.
The answer to that is no.
Yeah.
Socrates, know what you don't know, all right? And don't do it. Yes?
If you have a client and you're working with Fannie Mae or one of these folks, and there's an issue, and they can't get their mortgage because their bank's not comfortable, what happens?
and then they can't obtain financing.
And then they're out of the contract.
Generally speaking, your addendum is gonna call that out. So, but generally, if a buyer cannot obtain financing, generally speaking, the buyer is going to get their escrow back if they cannot obtain financing. So again, refer back to that addendum because it'll call out financing in one of the paragraphs. And it happens. I've had it happen. A buyer cannot obtain financing and they do release the escrow back to the buyer. In my cases. Other people may have had something different.
Karen?
Yeah. Can an insurable title ever become marketable?
Sure.
After a certain length of time, I mean, if everything appears to be okay or whatever, when they put it on the market 5 years later because they're moving.
We have to understand the insurable policy, the policy of insurance that was issued by a company that uses the insurable title standards. That is written and it says, as of this date, we will provide this coverage. This never transforms, or this policy, the language always stays the same. What you're saying is that perhaps the issues that once existed here that might have had to been taken care of, that they somehow, just merely by the passage of time, have been sort of self-resolving, all right? Now, just don't ever think that this kind of morphs into a marketable title policy. The insurable title policy, the language never changes. So if you're feeling really lucky, you know, and that something that these issues might drop out, and it could qualify. And watch, I want to take away this hand. It never changes. The policy language never changes. All right. It's just that the issues that make it non-marketable. I can't think of a whole lot that would resolve by the passage of time, but there may be a judgment that expired after 10 years or something like that. But I wouldn't count on it. That is not a winning strategy.
But if you went and got a new title policy and those were no longer there, then it could be a marketable policy.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So
basically, that's what they.
Right.
The people would have.
Yeah, because they're going to get a new title insurance policy when they go to sell the property anyway.
Okay.
Yes.
And what is listed on the title commitment? What type of issues would be listed?
What type of issues would show up on a title commitment that you need, right? The list is
Exactly. Go ahead.
Oh, well, again, besides the people, I've had one where property like a pool and a screen was over into the public easement. And even in a traditional sale, the title company's like, oh, you know, that's what it is. And again, it's amazing. When you talk to them, that's, oh, we can't do anything about it. An attorney says, no, you can do an Alta 9, blah. I mean, they talk their own language, blah, 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 and it's protected, which, again, anytime you have anything with title, they have an authority and ability to get stuff done that we don't, I mean, even whether you're practicing law or not, they can talk to them in a way, and they understand, because basically it's insurance. Basically, a company is insuring, and they're saying, what is the risk? And they know how to structure that risk so that it's acceptable to the title company, which has nothing to do with us, you know.
Exactly.
Even your driveway apron is a encroachment.
Right.
Okay, let me ask a quick question before I get to the other ones, because this is one. Typically, and we didn't cover that in the addendum that you showed, there's a difference. I noticed that they always try and issue a different type of, they transfer title in a different manner. Okay, typically in FAR bar we ask for, was it?
Warranty deed.
Warranty deed, and then in most bank addendums I've seen it's a
Special warranty
deed. Can you decide, how does that affect our client by having that?
Okay, special warranty deed, what they're saying is that we are only insuring title and insuring things that might have appeared as a matter of record while we owned the property.
Yeah.
That's it, not before. All right, so once again, if you recall during that part of my presentation where I was saying, hey, we're relying upon that title policy. That's what you're looking at. You cannot look for any remedy against the REO company that's selling it to you because they are only giving you title and warranting that while they owned it, you know, for that half an hour or whatever.
Yes, they got CT like the day before. We've owned it for 18 hours.
It's
so whatever happened
as long as that title issue arose during the time we owned it, then we're warranting it. Everything else in the universe and all the other time that has occurred in the history of man before that, we're not going to have a thing. So that what you're looking for is not the warranty from the seller, as in the warranty deed. What you're looking for is the title policy. That's what you're looking for as a, to some extent, a warranty as far as the status of the title and what issues there might be with the title.
That's very clear. Thank you. And more reason to get your own title insurance policy done by the buyer. I mean, really is, truly.
Is there any title issues that are not listed or are omitted from the title commitment? Is there any case like that where there's something that you get that title commitment, nothing listed, and then later on something pops up?
Well, we're getting into the definition of what is title insurance, and let me just try to simplify this. If there's, our system, we operate on what is a matter of record, what's in the public records, all right? So if a lien to be perfected, to be actually a lien on a piece of property, it has to be recorded. A mortgage to be a lien on a piece of property or a security interest in a piece of property, it has to be recorded. So the title industry is based upon what is recorded. And so those would be the matters that would be insured. Now, I don't want to give you a sense of false sense of security, because separate and apart from that, you need to be concerned about, let's just talk about municipal liens. All right, there could be, title companies don't necessarily do a municipal lien search, and what that is asking all the city and county agencies, is there something that's sort of rumbling in your files that may eventually become a lien that my buyer, after the sale, may become obligated to pay. So that's a different category. I'm sorry?
Such as an unpaid water bill.
Such as an unpaid water bill, exactly right. Now, a title insurance policy does not offer coverage, because that's not a matter of public record until the lien is filed. Right. But the owner of a piece of property, the new owner, can be obligated to pay a number of items like that, even though they didn't own the property at the time that this issue started to come up. So as far as title issues, okay, but there are other issues above and beyond that the buyer's agent needs to be concerned about.
And title insurance would not cover those issues, unpaid water bills, and that has nothing to do with it.
That is correct.
Ask the title company for the full lien. The full lien search. It should be like pages and pages and pages. And if it's Pasco County, it should show any street assessments, any paving assessments, any, past due water bills. Because water will lien a property, not a person. I pay, that's another thing, I know a lot of people want to get into the REO, and Bob asked me to mention this. If you're going to get into REO, be prepared to carry $15,000 to $20,000 a month in expenses.
That was a big question, one of the most popular questions. How do I get to be the listing agent? Okay.
Think about it.
Cool idea, great concept. I just sit back and wait for offers to roll in. Okay? Trust me, I only see about 1/10 of the emails that come through to Dawn from Freddie Mac, because as her broker, I get privy to about 1/10 of them. And that 1/10 is enough for me to say, have a great day, thank you very much, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Okay? Second thing is, like she said, all these things, they want you, hey, look, you're going to be, you're going to upfront pay these expenses for the bank and wait to get reimbursed 45 to 60 days.
And that's only on the
flush,
right.
Go for it. All right. And Don, you just probably make money, oodles and gobbles over money, right? And the listing agents get paid all sorts of.
Yeah. No. And I'm telling you, I just paid a $900 paving assessment, and then I paid a $600 lien. And then, oh wait, we have a pool that needs a liner and it's an HOA. That cost us $7,000. And if you don't have an approval in an email from an asset manager saying that expense has been approved,
You don't get reimbursed.
you're done. You're not getting it back. You can fight it tooth and nail. I don't pay anything. A title company will tell me, you need to pay this. Okay. Mr. Asset Manager, I have a lien. It's a paving assessment. Okay, Dawn, pay it, and here's your approval. And we print that approval and send it in with the reimbursement. And usually, Freddie, we get our checks on the 5th. We just got it yesterday. The check was for $27,000 for September expenses. So if you want to do REO, you have to be prepared to have a hefty line of credit or a lot of, operating cash.
Those utility bills.
Raise your hand, the teacher in me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm 20 years removed, but I still remember it well. If you you want to use the restroom, I saw you sneak out earlier. I gotta give you the hall pass, all right? Julie?
So I've heard the unpaid water bill come up a few times. I just went through this with a seller or a buyer. Has the county water bill go with the original person that had the water bill, not the property? Because they tried to get my buyer for $500.
Yeah, it just depends on, different municipalities do it different ways, so you would just have to know that. That's why, remember, they can only insure, remember everybody signs at closing, there's a signature says, hey, look, we completed our title search 5 days ago, you're raising your right hand right now, Mr. Seller, saying that you haven't put a second lien on this property in the last 5 days. That we can't, that's not been recorded yet, that we're gonna find out later, and that's why they have to sign that at closing. Joanne?
I have found in the past on some of the properties, if I contact all the utility departments and then speak with the bank-owned listing agent and let them know what we have found, we have had contracts come back, the acceptance come back stating that they would have to accept the property knowing that this lien was going to be on the property and they would have to sign off that they were going to take care of it. Same with code violations. Because code violations are a different thing, and they had to agree to sign off on those code violations, and they only gave them 30 days post-closing to do that. The bank did. I don't know what their repercussions would have been if they hadn't done it, but they got everything done within the 30 days because they were good buyers. But that's what I do. I always search all the different utilities because the paving assessments, they have them, but they don't always record them right away until the whole project is done.
Right.
I had a house that we were selling and it had to be paid, but it wasn't recorded yet. So sometimes you have to make all those calls.
Yeah, Wendy.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, and a lot of times the title companies will have your buyers sign hold harmless, especially for open code violations. You got a screen enclosure on the back that wasn't permitted, bank's not going to fix it. So if that buyer really wants that house, they're signing a hold harmless at closing stating they understand there's an open code violation. I could sit here for 4 days and go over nightmares with you all, but you just have to be aware and do your homework.
That doesn't apply just to REOs, right? It's all kinds of like.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure,
It's
yeah,
property.
that's a good point.
It doesn't
Yeah,
just
but
apply
the
to
difference
every
is-
property.
But the difference in an REO is, in a normal property, you could go back to the seller for 5 years. I mean, that materially affects the value. In REO, they're saying you can't come back to us. So just understand, there's not that ability to remedy.
Yeah, I mean, there's issues with all properties.
I just want to say.
Yeah, if it was
No,
big
you're
and
right.
tight.
You're exactly right.
The seller can't shirk that, right?
Right,
The
right.
bank is saying.
Right, you know how we tell you all the time, sellers, future home agents, sellers, implement, everybody never lived in the property. How's that for a property disclosure? Okay, guess what? I own investment property. I've never lived in a lot of them. Do I know about those investment properties? Waving a magic wand, say, I never lived here. So the fact that the roof leaked last month and I had to get fixed, do I know about that? Yes. Do I need to disclose that? Yes. Not living there doesn't give you this magic get out of jail free card with a little, what's the dude, the Monopoly guy that has, sitting in his top hat on. All right. That's not gonna not happen. Okay. So just don't say, oh, we can just say we never lived here and you're good.
But the banks
Right.
can say that.
But the banks do, exactly.
And all of my future home addendums state that. Seller has never occupied this property, and I put them in, every one of them. You don't turn them in, then you better have your buyer send something in writing that I can send to Bob that says, we refuse to sign these, because I don't have any disclosures for this property.
Even if I'm on the buyer side of an REO, I have the seller's disclosure, sinkhole, drywall,
All of it.
everything.
I do
with-
too.
Printed across the front that this is a bank-owned property, they have no knowledge of, will not disclose, and I make the buyer sign that.
Oh, I do too. But I can't control
called
if it's a
CY.
buyer's agent. But I'm with you, Tom. I've had buyers buy an REO, family friends, and I pull out that stack that says REO, seller has never, lived in this property, and seller will not sign, and I make them sign it. And I've had agents come back to me and say, well, there's a sinkhole on an REO. Seller never occupied that property. I didn't sell you the property. You signed my addendums. I cannot help you.
Let's go again more. Yes, Francesca.
It's true that some people or entities have a certain time to file a lien on a property, right? They don't last many years. So, for example, on a mortgage, what would be the max time for the mortgagee to file the lien?
Well, a mortgage is the security interest in the property. So if you have to record the mortgage,
That is the lien.
that is the security interest, right? There's no, what you're talking about is let's say a contractor does work and they file a lien, then if there's a statute that says if they don't file a suit within a year of the filing date, then that lien doesn't disappear, but its legal effect as a lien goes away. So I think that may be what you're talking about. But a mortgage, mortgage companies are very adamant that we're going to get ours recorded, and because the security that they have, in other words, having a lien on the property, does not come into effect until it is recorded.
More questions? Let me see if anybody else have anything before we go. Okay, Cindy.
Back to the disclosure component, don't forget to put in the mold one.
I do the mold Chinese addendum that's a dual.
All of them in the car bar, do what you would suggest, if that's okay with Bob.
Yeah, well, our company, we encourage everybody to do it, and trust me, we get pushback from our agents. It says 18 times in the contract that they did it. I don't care, all right? Because what's going to happen is 18 times in the contract, and then next thing you know, that buyer's nephew gets his law degree and goes to Morgan & Morgan, and they're going to say, okay, first thing you're going to do, go through every contract that you know. Who knows? You have an aunt that bought a house recently? Let's look at that contract. Oh, they didn't sign seller's disclosure? Oh, man. Ooh, yeah. So let's go after them, right? And so then convenient amnesia, all right, is what they get.
So can I ask you, Dawn and Bob, so as the buyer, we fill out our addendums like we normally do, sign them. But we know the bank's not going to sign
Correct.
them. So we just keep those to submit to our file that says our client, we fill the bank's forms that they want.
Right.
And then we keep that in our file.
We represent the buyer. I want who we represented. I want to know that I have CYA with them.
Those are uploaded into the paperless pipeline. Now, I have a lot of agents say, well, this house wasn't built before 78 or it's not in a CDD. Well, then guys, you don't have to sign those, but I have so many properties that I just take the bundle of them. And there's single family and there's condo, and depending on that listing, what's in there. But if you know you're not in a CDD, no, your buyer doesn't have to sign a CDD, but it's just easier to put them in there as a group, and I just grab them from my Dropbox every time I list a property. And if a buyer doesn't want to sign them, I make them put on there the buyer refuses to sign an initial, or send me an email, and I upload that to Deb and Maureen, because we don't want the responsibility.
Let's say after this, however long we've been here, we're not scared to death to buy a property. Do you have any suggestions, other than what you've already presented, that our offer would be more attractive to a bank?
Yes.
So, person's name versus LLC, quick closing, those kind of things.
When we are uploading offers, I am not speaking to a person. It is very, very rare I speak to an asset manager. Very rare. Your offer is attractive in terms of banks don't like contingencies. The cleaner the offer, the better chance. I know a lot of us in that 100,000 range are getting frustrated because we're getting beat out by cash, but cash is king, guys, and there is no seller in the world, whether it's a bank or you and I, that wouldn't take a cash offer over an FHA 3%, buyer's closing cost offer. It's just unfortunately the nature of the beast. The less contingencies, the better. Quick closings are great. You can do that with Freddie all day long. They're still going to give you 30 days. But it does look better when I put it in that, we're going to close in 2 weeks. We're cash. It's just cash is king. There's nothing else I can say to you.
Well, that's a contingency you're removing. There's no financing.
There's no finance.
It's
right.
gone. So
right.
the less contingencies.
The cleaner your offer.
I would think too, also having your stuff together, like if we ask for these 6 addendums or these things that need to be done, all right, and she's got yours that only has 4 and 6 other offers that have all 6.
Freddie Mac, if you don't return that property condition addendum, I have a right to, not the seller, I as the listing agent, Bob and I, have the right to reject that offer because you have not filled out the property condition addendum or the questionnaire, because I have to answer the question. So an incomplete offer on something that has multiple offers can hurt your buyer. So make sure you, again, follow the MLS instructions.
Multiple offer, 2 offers being equal, but one says
buyer will pay for title insurance and one says buyer will take sellers. What do you think the bank would prefer? Do they say this is, oh, we get to save $1,000, or do they say, oh, this guy's gonna be a pain, we're gonna go look for marketable title?
Yeah. Can't answer that. I honestly don't know. Who's your asset manager and did they eat their Cheerios that morning?
Right.
You know, it's hard to say. They could look at it, oh, great, you know, I'm gonna save title insurance, and then the other one might say, oh.
Yeah, the other one said, oh, last week got a deal, and these buyers were paying because
they're title agents.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So that's it.
Unfortunately, again, you all have to realize, anyone who's in the REO business, I am at that computer from 7 in the morning to sometimes 8 o'clock at night. I'm not talking to people. It's emails. It's all emails. So you're not getting that person to person. If I need to call an asset manager, I will, and they call me. But generally, it's all done through portals and emails.
Got time for a couple more? It's 11:30 on the nose. We have a gift card giveaway. Anything before we do that?
If you're using a title, the buyer is using their own title company to do the commitment, do they have the opportunity to be able to close with that title company, or would the lender still do the closing?
I'm gonna let David answer that.
I mean, she's asking you from an asset manager, if you choose title, say, hey, look, we'll cover title, can we close through that, or we still have to close through Miami?
Your title company that your buyers are working, or have selected, that title company will work with the bank's title company. So it'll be title company to title company.
Got it.
You can facilitate it. This is also another very odd thing. We have some big REO title companies in Tampa. They refuse to close properties at their office. Because you have to remember, when you use a remote closer, I have one at 3 o'clock, that property's not going to fund till tomorrow. Meaning wires are not going to hit the seller and fund that property till tomorrow. I cannot release those keys legally. So if you're adamant with them, I had one in Tampa that this guy had to get in on Friday, and I said, I'm coming to your office. She said, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. You are a title company. I am coming to your office, and this file will fund. You just got to sometimes give them a little, be professional, but there is no reason a title company in Tampa, if you request to close at their office so that it is live and funding numbers can be established, there is no reason. Some of them are pretty rude and pretty intimidating.
Why?
It's shoe-in business. It's shoe-in business. I don't have to work for referrals.
They're doing discounted rates.
Yeah. So you're just a number. But it'll work title to title.
Yeah, good point. Anybody else? Well, let's thank Dawn and David one more time. Thank you. So what did we learn?
Well done, thank you. Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Literally though, I think title insurance, having your buyer provide their own title insurance is like a given at this point. Okay, it's kind of a no-brainer. Number one, and in my opinion, all right, let's not just get a home inspection. Let's get a contract inspection as well. All right, and talk to somebody, David, or somebody like David that you trust, that you can refer your clients to say, hey, look, man, this is really outside of my comfort zone just because I'm not an attorney.
Right.
We're not an attorney. We are not an attorney. Not an attorney.
And I would think if we could get something from Bob as our broker that maybe David generated, that's, because again, the seller's not going to sign it, but, I will tell you, I will use it. And I do this every day. If I have a buyer, I don't know about you, I don't sell my own REO property. I refuse to. I do not. Someone calls me, I want to put an offer. No, I don't. There are many reasons why. It's just cleaner. But I do have buyers that have bought an REO. But I would love to have something that states, I didn't seek legal counsel in reviewing this addendum. At my choice.
Joanne.
I routinely in the last couple of years have used the far rider for buyer attorney approval and seller attorney approval. With every deal I do, I give them, even though it's in the contract, to take and see attorney, I bring that addendum out at the end and say, now before we do anything more with the signing, do you want to see an attorney to explain all of this?
Excellent. That's it.
And I have an addendum that allows us to ask for that. If they say they don't, then I say, then we need to write on there that you're waiving this at this time.
That's an excellent
Because I
idea.
have just found that to make me feel better.
Sure.
And actually, I've had one or two people say, you know, I do have someone. I'm like, okay, great, then
Right.
let's do it now. Because when you're going through the contract, they don't always think about that. They're just thinking about everything.
Right.
So I think it's addendum X and Y. I'm not sure in the.
I'm gonna look that
Yeah,
up.
well, it's a FAR bar, it's a multiple choice addendum, the FAR bar.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
it's a
And so
separate
I
addendum
just
for each of
routinely
these.
attach
Right.
But understand in a competitive market, in my opinion, when you're presenting a buyer offer and you add addendums like that, the listing agent is not like, we're better off having our own addendum that we sign internally that protects us, in my opinion and
I
experience.
agree, and then to the point, because technically for that to be part, that's buyer and seller, they have to sign it.
Yeah, well, I
The
just
seller's
said
not
the
gonna
seller's
sign it.
not gonna sign that.
Right.
A seller
So,
will not
that's all you
sign that
really use for
addendum.
your buyer anyway, for the most part, but I think we'll just create one.
Buyer or for the seller.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as people initial that, that's fine, but I think something like our own FHR addendas.
That would be great.
That, because I will tell you, I will include it in my REO.
I hear you, okay, I get it, we all have to hear you. Do you hear him, David?
What did they say?
That's right, exactly. All right, cool. I know it's 11:30. Thanks for coming. Hey, real quick, guys, two things. Keep an eye out in the future. 100K. If you're not with Future Home, if you are with Future Home, you haven't attended our 100K. It'll relaunch again first week of February. That's when we're coming out. All right, so keep an eye out for that. We covered incredible stuff. We could probably have testimonies in here, just some really cool stuff that people are adapting through our 100K. And then keep an eye out for this. We're going to be launching a training-specific website that's going to be open to the public. All right, it's going to be powered by us, but all this kind of stuff we're going to make out there so you guys can go out there and jump on it. So if you're on this list, we'll make sure you get a link to this if you want it again. All right, thanks for coming. Have a great day.
Wait, we gotta do the drawing.
Oh, drawing. Somebody's going to win something.
Yeah, well, you can't gather as realtors without a drawing, but it's going to make it final.
You know, they're needy people. They're very